It appears the New York Jets are going to have a new quarterback under center in 2023, but that doesn't mean Zach Wilson is going anywhere just yet. Joe Douglas is not expected to trade the quarterback.
J-E-T-S, Jets!
Meanwhile, for the New York Jets, Mike White starts once again. But what about Zach Wilson, who will be inactive today? Here's my understanding, Rich, of Zach Wilson's future. Joe Douglas, the general manager, does not plan to shop Zach Wilson this offseason. They view him as a good teammate, a hard worker, obviously very talented. They want to continue to develop him. Plus, his contract's already fully guaranteed, so no point in moving on now, Rich.
Welcome to Jets Talk. My name is Ryan. I'll be your pilot. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. If you've been here before, welcome back. I love having you here. Boys and girls, we're talking a little trade drama llama, not so trade drama llama news, because Joe Douglas says he's not trading quarterback Zach Wilson in the offseason. It appears the Jets are going to be looking for a new quarterback in 2023 with all the shifting going around, seemingly having Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh on the hot seat, and you have your number 2 overall pick in Zach Wilson just 2 years into his career, seemingly a pretty big bust. Are the Jets looking to move him out the door? A lot of fans kind of project he will. This could very well be the same thing as we are not trading Sam Darnold. We are not trading Jamal Adams. They are still on this roster. They are going to be Jets for the foreseeable future. That may be what we're looking at here. But at the same time, I don't think Joe Douglas is going to trade Zach Wilson for nothing. And when you look at his trade value right now, it can't be very high. He has not performed well. The benefit to not playing Zach at the end of the year, in my opinion, prior to the Mike White injury, was the optics of Zach Wilson being 5-2 in his Jets career when he came back from the injury. He lost 2 games to the Patriots. There's some mysterious upside potentially. And then you wind up having the Lions game and the Jaguar game, and you go down a few more rungs because you get pulled for Chris Streveler. Like, Zach Wilson's trade value could not be at an all-time, could not be at a lower point than it is right now. Like, unless you're convinced you can get maybe a 3rd-round pick, which, coming from the 2nd overall pick, is horrible trade value, but unless you can get something that you deem as good trade value in return, there's no reason to move on from Zach Wilson. And it doesn't appear like he's a locker room cancer. Like, the biggest issue that we had with him as far as like the optics in the locker room was that weird response after the 2nd Patriots loss where he said, "I didn't let my defense down," which I think was more of a slip of his tongue as opposed to like actually meaning he did not let the defense down. Which is a weird way maybe to look at that, but I don't think he meant it maliciously, and I don't think he's actively like dividing the locker room. From everything I've seen, Zach Wilson has been working hard. It's just not really working out. Like, does he have the yips? Is he just a bad quarterback? We don't really know. But the Jets have his rookie contract all guaranteed. All guaranteed, except for his 5th-year option. So the value in Zach Wilson right now, if you wanted to make a swing for what his value could be, or when the Jets may be looking to potentially make a move, based on his contract, it doesn't make sense to trade him prior to June 1st because your cap hit, accelerates his final years of his contract and makes his cap hit go from $10 million to $20 million for this year. Now, you can sort of restructure things with like a newly signed free agent that you have takes $10 million and it hits next year as opposed to this year. So you can manipulate it a little bit, but you got to have someone that you want to have on your team at least 2 more years, which Quinnen Williams could definitely help us facilitate that type of trade. But again, you get back to what is the trade worth and what does it make sense to hold on to Zach for? Because he's a $10 million cap hit. You will save some sort of money overall on like the cumulative cap sort of thing. But I think what I would do is I would look for the same sort of situation that the Jets did after they selected Sam Darnold. Well, I guess before they selected Sam Darnold, but had a plan for when they were going to do it anyway. And that was Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater was brought in to help rebuild his trade value in the preseason so we could flip him for a draft pick to the Saints. We wound up getting a 3rd-round pick back. I think that's what they're going to try and do with Zach Wilson, because if you can get Zach Wilson to a point where he looks comfortable and confident in the offense next offseason, obviously pending what you do at your own quarterback position, because you may just say, hey, he's worth it to hang around because who knows what happens. We're going on a Super Bowl run. Maybe the increase in whatever he has provided is better than whatever you'd get in a return. The other side of this is build up his trade value through the preseason, flip him before the season, so that way another team that wants to take a look at Zach may think he is, a future franchise quarterback. They have a full season of him before they have to decide on his fifth-year option. When we traded Sam Darnold, there was the optics of trading Sam was that the Jets had no talent on this roster. They had an incompetent coach in Adam Gase, and Sam Darnold was a victim of all these circumstances. That's why the Jets were able to get a 2, 4, and a 6 for Sam Darnold, as well as Matt Rule just wanting Sam Darnold to begin with. I would say the only coach that you could probably look at and say like, oh, this guy really wants Zach Wilson is probably Shanahan, but he's dealing with his own issue with Trey Lance and Brock Purdy and all the stuff going on. So I don't know if you necessarily have the same type of perceived value in an opposing head coach somewhere in the league. But I do think that the added value of that fifth-year option is huge because when the Panthers traded for Sam Darnold, they had to exercise his fifth-year option because of the amount of assets they gave up. They wound up paying him a bunch of money, which, I mean, it may end up with them in the playoffs this year, oddly enough, but by and large seemed like a pretty bad deal overall. So with Zach Wilson, they're able to see whatever team decides to trade for him would move him, would get him with the option to see him play and then exercise his fifth-year option. I do think that is the most critical piece of this whole thing. That provides a lot of value here. Now, maybe this is a trade halfway through next season before the trade deadline and the other team gets, half a season to view Zach at that point. Or the Jets are true to their word and they're not going to trade Zach Wilson at all. For me, for the number 2 overall pick, I think a second-round pick is what I would need to move on from him because the athletic upside and if it all clicks for Zach Wilson is significantly higher than anything you're going to get in the second round anyway. And I don't think you're getting a first-round pick. I'd be very surprised if you got a first-round pick for Zach Wilson. But for me, I think the value of him potentially working out is far greater than the asset that you'd get in return. So for me, and I think for Joe Douglas, while he says, I'm not trading Zach Wilson this offseason, I mean, sure, if someone comes knocking and they say, hey, first-round pick, it's all yours. Zach Wilson's packing his bags. He's out the door. So just because you're not shopping doesn't mean you're not going to click the add to cart, buy now, whatever sort of option. 2-day shipping, baby. Who knows? Does Zach Wilson actually stay in New York for next year? Does he get traded? Do you believe this is GM speak? If so, and he is going to get traded, what do you think he's going to get traded for? Let me know in the comment section down below. And as always, go Jets.